All right, folks, here we go. Friday night lights at Celtic Park, and there's plenty to get through today before we even touch the ball against Falkirk. It's been a whirlwind couple of days for Celtic on and off the pitch, with European travels on the horizon, transfer windows creaking open, squad deadlines looming, and the kind of press conference that gives you just enough to get excited, or overanalyze every single word Brendan Rodgers says. You know how it goes. Let's start with that press conference. Brendan Rodgers, calm, composed, maybe even a little cheeky at times, but with plenty to say. One of the first things that came up, and understandably so, was the upcoming tie against Kairat and the ridiculous travel involved. Rodgers was pretty candid about it. He admitted he'd much rather be taking a 2-hour hop over to Bratislava than an 8-hour haul to Almaty. And really, who can blame him? We're talking about one of the longest possible journeys for a UEFA match, which, if you didn't know, is happening because Kazakhstan, despite being mostly in Central Asia, plays in UEFA due to a tiny sliver of land in the west of the country that technically counts as Europe. So fair play to them for managing that geopolitical sidestep. But for Celtic, it's a logistical nightmare. The second leg over there is going to kick off at a local time of 9:45 at night. That means for us watching from Scotland, it's a tidy tea time kickoff. But over in Almaty, we're talking about a game that could easily wrap up after midnight if it goes to extra time or penalties. And let's be honest, with Celtic in Europe, that's not outside the realm of possibility. Add in time zones, jet lag, and you've got all the ingredients for chaos if the tie isn't put to bed at Celtic Park in the first leg. And that's the thing. People are already talking like the away leg might be a formality if we can get a result in Glasgow. But come on, we've all seen enough from Celtic in Europe to know that nothing's a given. That second leg could be brutal if we don't take care of business early. Brendan knows it, the players definitely know it, and the fans, we've been through enough over the years to be nervous, no matter what happens in the first leg. Rodgers did mention that this isn't new territory for Celtic. The club's been to Kazakhstan 3 times already, and Rodgers himself has managed there twice before. Some of the players like Callum McGregor and James Forrest have made that trip multiple times. Forrest, in fact, is on track for his 5th visit. He's basically got frequent flyer status in Almaty at this point. There's experience in the squad, and that matters. Brendan also gave a little nod to someone who usually stays out of the spotlight. Brendan O'Neill, the club's first team operations manager. He's the one behind the scenes making all this travel chaos make sense. From arranging flights to getting meals scheduled, even making sure clocks in the hotel run on British time. Yes, seriously, they do that. He's the guy who makes sure the squad doesn't lose their minds on these long-haul trips. Back in 2017, when Celtic played Astana, they literally had the hotel change every clock to UK time. The players were eating lunch at 5 in the morning and having team meetings in the middle of the night, all to keep their body clocks in check. It might sound extreme, but it worked. So don't be surprised if the same strategy is used this time around. Keeping the players on their regular rhythm could be key to avoiding sluggish performances in that second leg. Because again, it needs repeating. Nothing is guaranteed in Europe, especially not for Celtic. Now, about the squad. The deadline to submit the 25-man list for the Kairat tie has passed. As of now, UEFA hasn't published the official list, but it's safe to assume the core group is locked in. However, the interesting bit is the rule allowing 2 new players to be added before the second leg, with the caveat that for each player added, someone has to be removed to keep the squad at 25. So yes, it's very much a case of 1 in, 1 out. Rodgers didn't exactly give the game away when asked about potential signings, but his tone was a little more hopeful than in previous weeks. In past pressers, he's almost distanced himself from the recruitment side, saying things like, "I don't know," or brushing off questions entirely. This time, though, he used the word hopefully, which, while not exactly confirmation of an imminent signing, at least suggests there's something going on behind the scenes. Then again, we all know how easy it is to read too much into these things. Fans, and let's face it, that includes a lot of us, tend to latch onto a word like that and start dreaming up scenarios. Maybe it means nothing. Maybe it means a deal is close. We'll see soon enough. Recent history tells us Celtic can be stealthy in the market. Just look at the Jamai Simpson-Pewey signing. Barely a whisper. And then boom, done deal. It wouldn't be a shock to see something similar happen here. But with time ticking and the first leg coming up fast, Any new arrival would have to settle in immediately. That's a big ask. Now shifting gears to the Daizen Maeda situation. And yes, there's been a bit of a buzz building here too. Whispers about interest from down south, most notably from Brentford, have picked up. A couple of plugged-in people around the club have started to get that uneasy feeling. And you know how it goes. If there's smoke, fans start to fear fire. Rodgers, to his credit, didn't seem too concerned. He said he's confident Daizen is sticking around, or as confident as any manager can be when transfer windows are open and agents are circling. Contract negotiations are supposedly ongoing behind the scenes, but no real update has been offered. And Rodgers also addressed the possibility of Daizen playing through the middle again this season. He didn't rule it out, which aligns with his previous comments that Maeda is capable of playing centrally if needed, but ideally the manager wants him on the left. That said, with a thin squad and some injuries still lingering, you work with what you've got. If another striker comes in, great. That frees Maeda up to do what he does best out wide. If not, well, versatility becomes key. Oh, and while we're on Rodgers, we got a bit of classic Brendan banter when he explained why he wasn't wearing a tie during Sunday's match at Pittodrie. Apparently, it was just too hot. He even joked that Pittodrie, along with Deepdale, are the two stadiums where he's felt the most uncomfortable because of the heat. Amati might be giving those grounds a run for their money soon. Better leave the tie at home, Brendan. Now, before we dive into tonight's match, a quick glance around the rest of the Scottish clubs in Europe. Hibs just edged past Partizan and now face Legia Warsaw in the Conference League playoffs. If they win, they get 6 more guaranteed games in Europe, which is massive for them. Aberdeen are heading into a Europa League playoff against Steaua Bucharest. Win that, and it's the Europa League group stages. Lose, and they drop into the Conference League. Same structure for Rangers, who face Club Brugge. If they win, it's Champions League. If not, Europa League awaits. And then there's Celtic with the clearest, but arguably toughest, path ahead. Beat Kairat, and it's Champions League football. Lose, and we still land in the Europa League. So the stakes are massive, and the pressure even more so. But let's shift back to tonight, under the lights at Celtic Park against Falkirk in the League Cup. A proper Friday night fixture, which we haven't seen much of since that 5-0 thrashing of Dundee back in 2015. Near Bitton scored a worldie that night, and the Dundee keeper, none other than Scott Bain, who will be between the sticks for Falkirk tonight. Funny how football does that. Bain isn't the only familiar face in their lineup. There's Calvin Miller, who had a brief breakthrough under Rodgers during his first stint at Celtic, and Scott Arfield, former Rangers man who knows his way around a big match. Add to that Brian Graham, who somehow seems to be doing double. Duty as a player and a manager, honestly, the man never stops. So Falkirk have a few names with experience, and they're not going to roll over. Rodgers says he's going to field a strong team, though it sounds like he's also keeping one eye on that Kairat tie, which makes sense. You don't want to throw players in cold against Livingston in a league right before flying to Kazakhstan. So expect a few changes, some squad rotation, maybe even a surprise or two on the bench. But make no mistake, this is still a game Celtic want to win, and win well. In terms of injuries, it looks like we're only missing 1 or 2 names. That opens the door for players like Hayato Ando, Jamai Simpson-Pewee, and Shunyo Amada to get minutes, maybe not from the start, but definitely off the bench. These are players fans are eager to see in action, and a League Cup tie at home might be the perfect stage to blood them in. As for the predicted lineup, it sounds like Sinisalo is set to start in goal. Brendan seems to see him as the designated cup keeper, and he's earned that trust. The backline could include Alistair Johnston and Carter Vickers, both of whom Rodgers hinted need minutes to get up to speed. That means the likely centre-back pairing could be Carter Vickers and Austin. Trusty, with Liam Scales sliding in at left back once again. The midfield? You can almost guarantee McGregor starts as always. The rest could be a mix. Maybe McCauley, maybe Holm, maybe Ari Engels. On the wings, Yang on the right seems likely. Maeda on the left because, well, there aren't many other options right now. And up top, Johnny Kenny might just get the nod, though there are other options too. Tonight's game feels like more than just a League Cup tie, doesn't it? There's this undercurrent of tension, not because of Falkirk necessarily, but because of everything else surrounding the club right now. Every match, even the so-called smaller ones, feels like a checkpoint in a season that's moving fast and throwing up challenges from every direction. The margin for error is tiny. Expectations are sky high. The fans are restless but hopeful. And Brendan Rodgers, back in the hot seat, is trying to piece everything together in time for the real tests ahead. Now let's not forget Falkirk didn't come to make up the numbers. Last year's encounter is still fresh in the minds of many. They had us rattled more than once and actually led the game twice before we managed to pull ourselves together and bring on the big guns to turn it around. So don't be fooled by league tables or reputations. They'll come to Celtic Park with nothing to lose, and that's always dangerous. Add to that a few experienced heads in their squad, and you've got a banana skin if you're not careful. The atmosphere tonight should still be strong, even if it's not quite a sellout. It's a Friday night, the weather's decent, and there's that mix of cup excitement and anticipation of what's to come in Europe. From what we've seen on the ticket maps, the lower tier is mostly full with just scattered single seats left, and the upper tiers have a bit more availability. That suggests a decent turnout, maybe in the region of 43 or 44,000, which is solid for a domestic cup match in the early rounds. And you can guarantee that the crowd will be watching certain players very closely. Guys like Jamai Simpson-Pewee, who had some early buzz but has since gone a bit under the radar, and Shunyo Omada, who's had people curious since the moment he arrived. And then there's Hayato Ando, who's still something of a mystery to most fans. These are the kinds of nights that can help players like that find their feet and stake a claim. Even 10 or 15 minutes off the bench can give Rodgers enough to think about when he sits down to plan the trip to Kazakhstan. One player that fans have quietly been excited about is Benji Siegrist. He hasn't had much game time, and while Joe Hart remains the undisputed number one for now, there's always that thought in the back of your mind. What if Benji gets a chance and impresses? Cup matches are usually the gateway for backup goalkeepers to show what they can do. And although it looks like Sinisalo will start tonight, don't be surprised if we start seeing more of Benji as the fixtures pile up. Rodgers, to be fair, seems like he's trying to strike the right balance. He doesn't want to field a complete second-string 11 and risk the result, but he also knows this game sits awkwardly between the end of the transfer window and a massive European tie that could define the early part of our season. The lineup might look strong on paper, but it will be built with an eye on minutes, recovery, and keeping legs fresh for what's to come. He also knows the fans want to see something. The mood around the club has been mixed lately. Not toxic, not negative exactly, but there's been that anxious edge. Everyone's waiting for a proper performance, something to signal that we're not just grinding through the early season, but building towards something sharper, more dangerous, more Celtic. The style hasn't clicked yet, not completely. Some of that is down to injuries, some of it due to new faces bedding in, and maybe some of it is just the natural lag that comes with a managerial transition. Brendan's demeanor this week felt a bit more upbeat than in previous weeks. Less defensive, more relaxed, even dropping a few jokes. Maybe that's a sign he's feeling more comfortable with where things are heading. Or maybe it's just a temporary moment of calm before the chaos of the next few weeks kicks in. He's been around long enough to know that perception can shift in a heartbeat at a club like Celtic. One bad result and you're suddenly under pressure. One big win and everything's clicking again. Now, a lot of people have been speculating about possible new arrivals, especially with that small UEFA squad window still cracked open. And while Rodgers didn't confirm anything concrete, you can tell from the language that there's a bit more hope than there was a fortnight ago. Whether or not that turns into actual signings before the deadline is another story. But you'd imagine the recruitment team is working behind the scenes to at least get one more name in before we face Kairat. Ideally a striker, maybe even a winger, but someone who can offer something immediately, not just a project for 6 months down the line. In terms of outgoings, it's quiet. A little too quiet maybe. The squad is bloated in certain areas and light in others. If we're bringing one or two in, we're going to have to move one or two out. The numbers don't lie, so keep an eye on the fringes. Those players who've been on the bench but not getting on, or even left out of the matchday squad entirely, some of them may be moving on, at least temporarily. Loans, maybe permanent deals, depending on the level of interest. Daizen Maeda's name still lingers in the background of all this. The Brentford rumors haven't gone away, and while Rodgers is insisting he's not for sale and that everything is fine, These things can turn quickly, especially when Premier League clubs get involved and start flashing serious money. That said, Maeda's attitude has never been in question. He's one of the hardest workers in the squad, and you know he'll give everything as long as he's here. But even for him, the uncertainty must weigh a little. Rodgers also touched again on Maeda's best position. We've seen him through the middle, especially last season when options were thin and he was actually quite effective there. But it's clear Brendan prefers him out wide. He's more dangerous running at defenders, stretching the pitch, creating space for others. If we can get a top-level number 9 through the door, you get the sense that would unlock things a bit. Move Maeda back to the wing, give Kyogo or another striker a proper run up top, and the whole front line starts to look more balanced. And let's be honest, balance is what's been missing. The team still feels a little off-kilter. Sometimes we dominate possession but don't create enough. Other times we create chances but look vulnerable at the back. And some of that is just early season rust, sure. But some of it is down to the fact that the squad is still finding its shape. The big players are still finding form. Guys like Carter Vickers are only just getting back to full sharpness. Alistair Johnston too. Even McGregor, who never really has a bad game, hasn't quite hit his top stride yet. That's why games like tonight matter. Yes, it's Falkirk. Yes, it's the League Cup. But it's also a chance to build rhythm, confidence, fluency, a chance for certain players to step up and say, I'm ready. And that kind of internal competition is crucial. You want players pushing each other. You want Brendan to have selection headaches, not just injury replacements. You want to feel like every position is up for grabs and that anyone in the matchday squad could be trusted to do a job. We should also mention the referee tonight, a new face in Lloyd Wilson, with VAR duties handled by John Beaton. Make of that what you will. The hope, as always, is that the officials stay out of the spotlight. Let the football do the talking. Though with Scottish refereeing, that's not always a guarantee. One other detail that might have slipped under. The radar is the update on the banners at Celtic Park. John Paul Taylor confirmed they're due to be replaced soon following damage from that big storm earlier in the year. A small thing maybe, but for fans who care deeply about the stadium's look and feel, it matters. Presentation is part of identity. And Celtic Park, especially on nights like this, should feel like a fortress, a home, a statement, something proud. Livingston is on the horizon after tonight. Then it's the long haul to Kazakhstan. This little stretch of games awkwardly placed in the calendar could define the early season mood. Get through tonight, handle Livingston, and come back from Kairat with a result. Suddenly the narrative changes. The doubters go quiet, the questions fade, and the real focus can start to take hold. But if things go the other way, if there's a stumble in one of these matches, the pressure ramps up again. The press starts digging, the fans get edgy, and the feel-good factor of Brendan's return gets a little clouded. That's why tonight isn't just a routine match. It's a tone setter, a chance to reset after a choppy few weeks and send a message, not just to Falkirk, not even just to Kairat, but to ourselves, that this team is finding its feet, that the plan is coming together, that Celtic are still Celtic, hungry, confident, relentless. Kickoffs at 7:45. The lights will be on. The songs will be loud. And for a few hours, it'll be about football again. Everything else, the travel chaos, the transfers, the deadlines, can wait. Tonight is about showing up, putting in a performance, and taking one more step forward. Before we proceed, subscribe to our channel and enable notifications to receive all exclusive news about Celtic FC. Don't miss any details about your favorite team. It's extremely important for Celtic FC fans. The streets of Glasgow are buzzing with chatter after whispers emerged late last night that James Tavernier, the long-serving and much-loved Rangers captain, has allegedly turned his back on Ibrox in a move no one thought possible. Sources close to the matter claim that the right-back, known for his consistency, leadership, and uncanny knack for scoring crucial penalties, has secretly agreed terms with arch-rival Celtic in what could be one of the most explosive transfers in Scottish football history. While neither club has issued an official statement, several anonymous figures within the football community have hinted that talks have been ongoing for weeks, hidden from the public eye to avoid immediate uproar. Tavernier's reported decision has sent shockwaves through Rangers supporters, many of whom feel betrayed by the notion that their captain could cross the most fiercely guarded divide in British football. At Celtic Park, however, there's a mixture of disbelief and excitement at the prospect of a player so deeply embedded in Rangers' identity-switching allegiances. Some suggest this might be nothing more than calculated media mischief, a planted story designed to destabilize Rangers ahead of a crucial run of fixtures, but others insist the deal is very real and dangerously close. If these claims hold any weight, Tavernier's potential switch would not only shatter decades of tradition, but also ignite one of the most intense supporter backlashes the Scottish game has ever witnessed. For Rangers fans, Tavernier has been more than a footballer. He's been a figurehead during turbulent times, guiding the club back to domestic glory and European respectability. To imagine him in the green and white hoops of Celtic is for many a nightmare scenario bordering on blasphemy. Yet transfer history is littered with moments that seemed impossible until they unfolded before our eyes. And in football, sentiment often falls victim to ambition, finances, and timing. Celtic's hierarchy, always keen to strengthen while simultaneously unsettling their rivals, could see Tavernier as the ultimate coup, a symbolic and strategic blow in equal measure. It would mirror infamous switches of the past, where once idolized players crossed the old firm divide, forever altering how they were remembered. Whether Tavernier's motivation is sporting ambition, a final big payday, or lingering dissatisfaction behind the scenes remains unclear. But insiders claim negotiations have already reached a stage where personal terms are settled, with only the formalities of a medical and contract signing separating the two sides from making the news official and sending Glasgow into footballing. Chaos! From a tactical perspective, the rumored move could have seismic implications for both sides of the city. Tavernier's style, an attacking fullback who doubles as a set-piece specialist, fits perfectly into Celtic's high-tempo, possession-dominated approach under their current manager. His ability to whip in dangerous crosses, contribute double-digit goals from defense, and marshal younger players would make him a ready-made leader in a squad already brimming with domestic dominance. For Rangers, however, losing him would be a body blow, both in terms of on-field performance and dressing room influence. There's speculation that his departure might be linked to behind-the-scenes friction, possibly over contract length, transfer, ambitions, or his role in the club's future plans. The Rangers board, faced with balancing finances and squad rebuilding, could have reluctantly greenlit discussions if the transfer fee was deemed irresistible. Yet supporters are unlikely to accept any rationale, particularly if the transfer is to their fiercest rivals. Season ticket holders have already taken to online forums to vent their anger, some calling for boycotts and protests outside Ibrox. Meanwhile, Celtic fans, though wary of being drawn into premature celebrations, are quietly envisioning Tavernier lifting trophies in their colours, a scenario that would forever twist the knife into Rangers' faithful hearts. Of course, the very notion of Tavernier in a Celtic shirt raises questions about how such a move could be received within his new dressing room. Old firm rivalries run deep, and while footballers are professionals who can adapt quickly, the emotional baggage of a direct switch carries its own risks. Some Celtic players, privately or otherwise, may question the wisdom of signing a player so entrenched in Rangers' ethos, particularly one who has led the team out at Ibrox countless times. Yet others may view it as a masterstroke, bringing in a battle-hardened winner who knows exactly how their biggest rival operates. The media circus surrounding such a transfer would be relentless, with every training session, every public appearance, and every on-field gesture scrutinized for hidden meaning. Press conferences would become arenas of loaded questions, while match days against Rangers would be transformed into high-stakes theater. Tavernier himself, if this story proves true, would need the mental fortitude of a seasoned veteran to endure the inevitable abuse from the stands. And yet, for some players, the challenge of proving doubters wrong and writing a fresh chapter in football history can be irresistible, even if it means burning bridges that once seemed indestructible. Still, there remains a sizable chance that this entire saga could be nothing more than a carefully spun piece of transfer gossip, designed to ignite passions and generate headlines during a lull in the season. Scottish football thrives on rumour and rivalry, and few narratives are as potent as the idea of a star player switching allegiances across the old firm divide. It's possible that an agent is leveraging Celtic's name to secure a better deal. For Tavernier at Rangers, a common tactic in the game's shadowy negotiation process. Alternatively, perhaps Celtic's interest is genuine, but the player himself remains unconvinced, with the leak serving as a test of public reaction before any formal approach. Either way, the speculation has already achieved its purpose, dominating the back pages, polarizing fan opinion, and reminding everyone of the thin line between football loyalty and professional ambition. Until there's an official statement, the city will remain on edge. Every social media post from Tavernier dissected for clues. Every closed-door meeting between club officials treated like a summit of national importance. And in Glasgow, where football is religion, rumors like this are as powerful as the truth, sometimes even more so. Hello, fan. Don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel, as it means a lot to Celtic FC. Also, share your opinion about the news in the comments below. See you in the next video.